All right, so now is the first video for 2026. I guess this will mark my 1 year on YouTube. Actually putting out a regular degree of content or something like that. Yeah, I know there's some older stuff from the grass days that are up on here, but I'm pretty sure we can all agree that those don't really count as regular content uploads. But yeah, so I think there's been maybe some slight improvements in quality over the course of the last year during these videos. Getting a better feel for how to kind of do the audio and such, and some of the editing. I think probably the biggest improvement I made was actually showing the drawing at the end of the video and letting it linger there a bit, rather than just ending the video when I finish speaking. So yeah, there's the minor incremental improvements. Probably in another, 50 years or whatnot, I could be a professional at YouTube with that growth rate. But anyhow, so kind of starting off this year, I was thinking, what's some stories I can share and some interesting things, and something I'm going to take a look at including might be like interesting or funny little stories that happened within like the last month of doing a video or whatnot. Something that isn't real big, but it's just kind of funny and entertaining. And so we'll see kind of how those go if enough stuff happens in a month for these short little quick intro segments. And speaking of intro segments, I need to be better about doing mine. So this is for a monthly voting page for Gnosis. I think this drawing is called Akitsui Dark Mage. Moving slightly away from kind of the dark fantasy, heavy metal style I was practicing, or rather into a different part of it. So moving away from like the axes and weapons and stuff into kind of the magic side of it. And I do know that this one does change pretty drastically throughout its art process. It just wasn't coming together right, so I made some pretty big changes in there. So that'll be interesting to see how that pops up in kind of a time lapse, but it is there. I'm assuming that maybe, I don't know, since I don't see the sped up videos before recording these, at kind of what part of the drawing process is that, but you might already have, if you've seen the final version and are looking at this one, you might already see the big changes made in there. But yeah, so continuing on with kind of the intro, my name is Lacking a Name. I do a webcomic called Gnosis. Updates 3 times a week, and I like to invite everyone to come over and read that. The traffic helps a lot, and if you feel I've earned it, I'd also appreciate if you became a Patreon member. Only if I've earned it. We got a $1 tier, $5 tier, and $10 tier that can offer different rewards on there. There's also other tier rewards on there for people who have money, but they don't offer anything different, so there's not a whole lot of point in really talking about that. If you go to the Patreon, you'll see what it is, and I think I even have included in there, only select this tier if you can actually afford it. So yeah, that's just, I guess, if you feel like I've earned your money, I'd appreciate it some. So kind of going on with the intro of kind of what was one of the big things that happened this last week, or this last month. Now, last month was Christmas, all right? Lots happened that time, and I talked about some of those stories in the Christmas update video last month. But one that happened a little later, it wasn't after Christmas related. My dad has the responsibility of locking up the church that we go to. And so I'll usually go over with him late at night and help him lock up. It was a fun time to talk with him, and I guess having 2 people there guarantees its safety more. But, it's pretty safe. Nothing has ever really happened there, but it's just something that I help him with. So one night we're coming back from picking up a refrigerator because ours broke over kind of the Christmas season. I think I talked about over in Gnosis about being in the worst Christmas special ever because I was a extra in it, or supporting cast. So none of the good stuff, all of the problems. But yeah, so we're picking up a temporary refrigerator to try and get us through the holiday season. And we decide that we're going to stop by the church and make sure the outside doors are locked. We don't have a key to get inside it at this time to check the interior doors. So he goes around one side of the building, and I go around the far side of the building. And I'm going through, checking the doors. And I come around to the back side of the building, and he's not there. And I thought, I've had to go further than he has, and I had more doors to check, and he's not here. He's up to something. So I start looking around. I'm like checking at the pillars and stuff, looking at the shadows to see if I could see him standing behind them or something. And I go and I'm checking the doors, kind of looking, and I see out the corner of my eye something moves inside the church, and he steps out of the shadows into the light, and had gotten in there. It's like, ugh, just kind of jolted, and we had a great laugh about that, where he said he was a little slightly disappointed by my reaction, that I didn't like jump or anything. I just flinched, but my guard was up. I knew he was up to something when he wasn't there, so I was prepared for something. But so what happened is, on his end, he went and checked his first set of doors, and one of them was open. So he realized he had the chance to scare me. So of course he's going to take it. So he goes running off through the church, just cackling to himself, gets to the back door where I'm going to be and such, and just waits in the shadows until I come along and check it, and then I can't see him. He just kind of steps out to the light of it and startles me. So yeah, there is going to be in heaven replay a old man running through the halls of the church cackling to himself. So yeah, so that is kind of a fun incident that happened over this last month. So now on to, I guess, kind of the meat of this month's video. And that's kind of going to be, I'm thinking it's going to end up being a elongated section that I'll come back to from time to time, but it's gaming with my brothers. And it's, so me having two younger brothers, Fluffyhead and Albino Chimp, are pretty close in age. I think like we're maybe like like 3 years or something apart from each other, maybe a little longer than that. And so we grew up obviously with each other, and a big part of what eventually became kind of our pastime is playing video games with each other, and just kind of the stories that came from that. And it's something that we have kind of revived over the last few years and still do quite regularly today. That's the wonderful thing about online stuff, is we can be all across the country and still play games with each other and such. So we tend to do that twice a week. But so I thought I'd go back into kind of the history of that and the first time that we started doing these games. And so the course starts with our very first console. So this was probably like 2004 or maybe 2003, maybe 2001. I'm actually not sure when this was entirely. But our very first console was the PlayStation 2. In the house that we were living at the time, it had an unfinished basement, and my dad and mom had put in a lot of time to finishing the basement themselves, putting up walls, dry rocking it, painting it, putting in carpet, electrical, all that stuff to turn it into a downstairs part of the house, actually. And when they did that, they wanted it to kind of be like a movie center, so they bought a big entertainment system case, wooden one, put that in there, and then put a decent sized TV that they got, I guess a little bigger box TV in there as well. And at the time, a lot of stuff was swapping over from VHS to DVDs. And so they wanted something that could play DVDs and thought about that. Might as well see about getting a gaming system at the time or whatnot. And so they got a PlayStation 2. I remember they went to the store and they talked about that the sales clerk helped them pick out which one they should get and such, because it's right at that time of a console turnover from like the N64 and the PlayStation 1 to the PlayStation 2. So that's just a little interesting, I guess, painting the picture at the time frame. And we got that for Christmas, and each of us got a game to play on it. My very first video game was Digimon World 1 for the PlayStation 1. And I think Fluffyhead got Spyro, and Albino Chimp got Scooby-Doo and the Cyber Chase. All these were PlayStation 1 games. But hey, the PlayStation 2 was backwards compatibility, so that was awesome. And so we played those quite a bit. I think we got other games later, but those, were our starting points. So for, I guess, some memories of that is I remember Scooby-Doo and the Cyber Chase was just like the second world or whatnot. First level was really hard. There's just this stupid jump right at the start that we could not make. And it took us forever to get past that point, but eventually we did and beat the game. And for Digimon World 1, that was quite a bit different. That's a game that none of us ever actually beat. It's a very complicated monster rearing game, I guess you can say, where you have a lot of different numbers to manage, like your health, your attack, your magic points, I think they're called, your defense, your speed, your intelligence, and all these sorts of things. And you just have to kind of explore this world and recruit other Digimon to the main city and such. And I think it was a really great first game that it really created a fun, a love of exploration in video games for me. What's over that hill over there, or what's over in this direction and such, and just see kind of what you can find and discover during those journeys. And if you're going to be strong enough to handle the monsters in that part of the world. And so it was just a really fun game that just as you went out and explored and the world started to kind of open up before you, and there'd be shortcuts and such that you could find as you progressed in the game to make it into the later game areas quicker, and all the different things that we would discover. So it was a good first game. But there's a couple of stories that, well, I'd say it was a very good first game. Probably not because of the numbers, because we didn't understand anything. We just understood get your health up really high and you'll win a lot. So we just went with the tank. And so Fluffyhead, since it's a monster rearing game, got a dinosaur called Tyrannomon in there that he absolutely loved. It was a big red kind of T-Rex-like dinosaur. And it was awesome. It just could win a whole bunch of fights. It had a lot of health and damage. It was great, and he made a lot of progress in the game with that. Well, one of the systems unique to Digimon World that's not found in like the Pokemon games is that your Digimon can get old and die, and they then start back at an egg again, and you have to rear them up again from that. So that eventually Tyrannomon got old and died. And he was so sad that I had a book of Digimon, and he was up at the night, like just looking at the picture of Tyrannomon and crying and such. So that's a nice story that we would like to look back now on. That just how funny it was at his pet. And he was, and when we were talking about this years later when he was married. His wife goes, "How were you ever cool?" So was, but yeah. So that was quite the game that shaped, I guess, a lot of my early gaming experience, and of in a way. in life that I didn't really realize this until I got older, but that, that things aren't permanent. They do change over time, and sometimes good things leave. And I learned all that from a digital Tyrannomon going. Fluffy Head, he lost to Tyrannomon, but he was really good at that game. The highest rank of Digimon you could get in it were Ultimates, and he got several of them. I think I might have gotten one. I think he got like 5 or something, so we called him the Ultimate King. Just because that's what he did. He got a lot of really high level stuff. For some reason, he's just very good at video games. He doesn't have to practice at them or a lot, and you could just hand him a game and he'll just figure it out and do it. So it's kind of annoying in that respect, but that's what he does. Now, so the third, but technically the second game in the first 3 was Spyro, which Fluffy Head got. And it was, I think it was Repto's Rage was one that I got. So the second Spyro game. And the significant memory with that was actually around New Year's. That this was the first time we were allowed to stay up till midnight to celebrate New Year. So we were playing the Spyro game to stay awake and such. And we get to the first boss and are able to beat it right before midnight hits. And so it's just this big exciting moment that we beat the first boss of the game, and it's midnight and such, and fireworks are going off, and so that's just a fun little memory as a kid. And then you go to the second area and it's like, oh, the world's opened up even more and it's bigger and all that jazz. So that was just another interesting little moment in how our first video games tied into stuff in our life and things. I have no idea how long it took us to beat these games. Like reach the first boss, beat Scooby-Doo. And I think the furthest we got to Digimon World was Infinity Mountain. Because I have no idea how long it took us. Alright, so my mic just cut out there. So I have no idea how long it took us to get. Because we got these games. Alright, mic's being a little buggy, but I think it's working now. So yeah, basically these games seem to have taken a long time for us to beat or get very far in them, because we got them for Christmas, and I don't think we were beating the first boss in Spyro in a few weeks when New Year's came. So it might have been like a year before we got that far or something weird like that. It was a long time. Yeah, so those were our very first video games, and memories kind of surrounding them of watching each other play, sitting in the newly finished basement of that 2-story house. So eventually we would get more video games and such, and one of the games, I can't remember if we rented it first or bought it first. But I remember the store clerk telling my mom that the first part of it was a little hard and not to worry about fighting stuff, just run past it. Alright? And that was Kingdom Hearts. Now, this was funny because I didn't realize how big this game was at the time. I had some friends later on that were super envious that I had like the holographic, shiny version of the case, and I was like, I thought it was just a game, a Disney game. So it's not like I was I'd say the most culturally aware of what all these games were and such. But that was, I guess, kind of what would technically, I don't know if maybe my first RPG or whatever. I'm trying to think if Digimon World would count as that, or if that was a monster rearing game only. Oh well. Anyhow, the funny thing about that, going to the Kingdom Hearts games, is I didn't understand how the weapons system worked on a lot of different aspects of the game. And so I made it all the way up to, I knew how to switch weapons on Donald and Goofy, but I didn't know how to switch my weapons for whatever reason. And made it all the way up to, or for that matter, how to change up my ship and add guns and such. So all the way to the Maleficent Dragon boss fight with just the starting weapon and the default ship, because I didn't know how to change anything. And I just could not get past this dragon fight. It was just such a pain. I couldn't do it. I couldn't put out enough damage or avoid enough attacks during that. And then one of my friends showed me how to switch weapons. Like, oh, that's how you do it. And then I think beat the dragon on the first try after that with a proper weapon, only to then get immediately stuck with the Rico fight right after that. So that was just kind of a funny little story. There is just not knowing how a game really works, and accidentally just pushing my way through it, or finding little sneaky ways to do stuff to beat it. Now, one of the things that when you got three brothers and you need to share one console with each other is you got to take turns playing it. All right, pretty common, makes sense. All right. The result of this, though, is dependent on like real heavy story games or whatnot. You can wind up with one of you getting way further than the others. Usually this was Fluffyhead because he was better at it. So eventually this would turn into a, hey, why don't you just play so we can see what's new and what's next, instead of seeing the same low levels 3 times over. Let's have the good brother play and see what's next. And so that created just kind of, I guess, I don't know, but a lot of, I guess, kind of ended up creating like an enjoyment in watching a video game in someone else play. Is that it kind of becomes like a movie and you problem solve together and such, and talk about different ways you can do things in the game. So it's kind of like just a, I wouldn't say real different way of interacting. I think it's pretty common now, and if anything, Twitch demonstrates that this was a large experience for a lot of people during the video game times. Watching their older brothers, or in my case, the brother who's better than me, play video games and such, just so you can see what comes up. But yeah, so that, I think, with Kingdom Hearts really shone through a lot, just because, since it was such a narrative-heavy game, having one of us play the most regular went the furthest in the game. So there's kind of that aspect, of it, which as we move on to the next kind of segments of games will become more and more prevalent. Another game we got at kind of during this time at some point was Star Wars Battlefront 2, which was we had the first one, which was a lot of fun, and the second one was great too because it had space battles and you could actually play as heroes and such in it. But Fluffyhead, they had kind of the medal system, whereas if you performed certain actions in the game, you would get a medal, and if you got enough medals, you would get a power weapon upgrade. And then if you continued to get enough medals, you would just start with the power upgrade immediately. And Fluffy had decided that he wanted to max out all the medals on Legendary and have everything. And so he would grind for hours getting these medals to get the best guns. Like I think one was for the assault class, gave you kind of like they called it elite rifle, but it's basically a burst fire, kill anything in one burst type machine gun, and you had to get like 17 kills or something like that to get the Fury medal, and he grinded that out till he got up to Legendary. So whenever he would play, he would have this gun, and if we played against him, he would waste us with it. But I remember him doing that, going to Hoth and just shooting a continuous amount of rockets into the neck of the AT-ATs to get the rocket Legendary, or the guided rockets and such. But yeah, so that was something that we would watch him do, and then it would absolutely be no fun to play against him during any matches that we weren't on the same team, because he would just waste us. Let's see now. So eventually we decided that we wanted to get more game consoles. So once fall, we started up a leaf raking business that our dad helped us with, where we would go and rake up leaves in people's yards and, get paid or whatnot. And I remember we had one big house. I say big house, but it was one house with really big trees that it just took us maybe 3 days or a week to clean up all those leaves, because the piles were just absolutely massive. It was like snow. It was like moving snow of how many leaves there were, it seemed like. And I think my dad did most of the work, but we learned a bit about how to do that too, and hauling all the leaves off into the trash and such. But after we had earned our money, we sat down and did a pros and cons list of what consoles we wanted to buy. Did we want to get a GameCube or an Xbox? And ultimately, we decided to get a GameCube that had a lot more multiplayer games on it at the time that we wanted. And so, of course, one of the first games we got for that was Super Smash Bros. Melee. Now, the great thing about this game is you don't have to grind real far into the game and have one story progress. So this was a lot of games, time spent playing with each other in matches and unlocking different characters from that. Listen now, I think the character I made was Bowser. I can't remember what Albino Chimp made during that time. Eventually, I know in Brawl it was Diddy Kong, and I can't remember though what he was at that back during the Melee days. But Fluffyhead really liked maining Roy, and he was pretty darn annoyingly good at that game. He loved to be able to edge guard, and when you were trying to get on an edge, just have a charge up hit and just launch you when you hit, or when you tried to grab that edge. So that was always difficult to deal with. I mean, none of us were pro players, so he was the most competent kid in a sandbox, thus making him the king of it. But not only was he good at Melee, he was also good at Metroid Prime games. And I remember we got the first one, and he made pretty good far progress in it, playing that. And I remember when the second one came out, we were all super excited because that one had multiplayer in it. And playing that first level of Metroid Prime 2 a couple times, and you got kind of the zombie federal marines or whatever they are, and they're just being terrified of them in the intro stuff. So we saw that quite a few times. It took us a while to save up money to buy a memory card for the GameCube, so we could actually start unlocking stuff. That was something we didn't consider when getting a game, is you'd also have to get a memory card. Yeah, back in those days, both the PlayStation and the GameCube had an external memory card that you had to buy so you could save stuff on. And I think the Xbox is the only one at the time to have an internal hard drive for a memory on it. But yeah, so that was just, I'd say just once again, with the Metroid Prime really tied into what I talked about earlier, is we were problem solve together, solve the puzzles, the boss fights, and where you should go on the map and stuff. I remember we would bring up the map and look at it and talk about kind of what routes to take to get to the locations and how we can do different things and such. And it was, I guess, a lot of brainstorming together to problem solve. So while one person played the game, it really felt a lot like all of us were contributing to the success. And I think that was a really good bonding experience for us, working together to solve problems and not fighting over whose turn it was. It was, well, either we all win together or none of us win because we're grounded because we're fighting over the controller. So we learned to all win together to an extent. But yeah. Let's see now. How long is this video going? Oh, this video is getting a little long in the tooth. I guess I'll keep going and finish up kind of the intro stuff for this. So we had Metroid Prime that did that, and Albino Chimp 1 year for his birthday got Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess. And once again, it was a lot of a game that just tied in really, really well to the problem-solving aspect of it, and working together to make progress in the game. I had a save file on, I think, a lot like Metroid Prime and Twilight Princess, but I think I never really got past the intro parts of the game because it's like, oh, you're home from school, here, why don't you play? I want to see what's next. And so it's just a lot of that stuff. And I remember, I can't remember if it was Albino Chimp or once again Fluffy Head that beat Twilight Princess and kind of that big sword fight with Ganon and such. I think that might have been Albino Chimp that actually did that one, because since it was his game, he got to play it first, and then that just kind of snowballed into, well, he was further than us, so let's just let him go and play. Kind of that attitude of it, so we could see what was next. But yeah, so that was, I guess, our first real Legend of Zelda game. And eventually we did get a Xbox. Now, the Xbox story, there's a couple of interesting components that tie into it. Because my very first time playing Halo is a long time before we got an Xbox. My parents were going on a anniversary trip to Hawaii, and we were staying with our grandma and grandpa. And my uncle had an Xbox in with Halo on it, and was going to lend it to them, so we had something to my grandparents, so we had something to play. Because we're going to be there like a week or something. And my parents were a little worried about it being M-rated, and eventually they said, well, it was okay because it had like cartoony, like spray paint looking brightly colored blood or whatnot from the aliens. So that's my first time playing Halo, and I had heard a lot about this from my other friends, that Halo was such a great game and such. And even the Fluffy Head Macmillan had played it at his friend's house. And so as we're going through the game, we eventually get to the flood levels, and he told me that these levels were super scary, that they're like zombie creatures or whatnot. And so we're just slowly creeping through the levels, and I jump up on this ledge, and I see what I think it looks like this horrifying zombie. And drop down, and like, there's one up there. I'm like, what? He's like, what? I'm like, yeah, there's one up there. And he pulls out a rocket launcher and shoots it. Turns out it was just the corpse of a jackal. And when I jumped up it, its bird face thing scared me. And so he was kind of mad that I made him waste a rocket on it. But yeah, so that's just, I guess, a very prominent memory of that, of creeping through those first flood levels, just terrified of every corner of when these zombies were going to show up. But yeah, so that was, I think, a good while before we got an Xbox. So that's my first experience with Halo. Now, getting the Xbox, actually not that exciting of a story. It was for Albino Chimp's birthday. My mom found a used Xbox that was being sold, and with some games and such, and so she bought it for his birthday. And so she's picking us up from school one day, and we get in the van, and there's a Xbox sitting in there. I'm like, what? What's this? And it's like it's for Albino's birthday. All right, you can't play it until then, or something like that. And so that was just super exciting. We played a lot of Halo with each other, both in of course, the multiplayer mode and then the campaign. Because it's not a long linear progression, we would replay that multiple times over with each other in cooperative. I remember in Halo 2, one of my friends and Fluffy had playing the last mission, the last Master Chief mission. I think it's called High Charity or something like that, with the Flood on it on Legendary, trying to see if we can get these mythical Flood Juggernaut forms to spawn and such, and we never did. I think that was a internet rumor created from leftover files in the game, but that made up a huge portion of our Xbox gaming time. That and one other game, and that was Morrowind. Now, Morrowind was like our, I don't know if I'll say first, but like probably really dived into the character RPG games and such at the time, of how you can really pick the different stats and how they work and such. With that, and Morrowind was the one where I was the one who actually made the furthest progress in the game. I remember it was with a Khajiit character that was going to be kind of like I think it was supposed to be like a monk or something. So it's like a Khajiit that used pole arms, unarmored, and I killed one of the Vivek Raft people so I can steal like his rice hat and such. But I know I made it all the way up to I think curing Stone Blight or something like that on the character. And this was back really before you had map markers in the game and stuff to guide you, so you had to just kind of read your journal about where you needed to go next and such, and look at the early internet walkthroughs with the terrible pictures about where you should go and where you can find things and such. But yeah, so that was my first experience. Well, that was the one I made it furthest through. Was Morrowind, and I remember Morrowind is infamously buggy with lots of different cheats. Like you got I think it's like black, white, white, black, white, or something like that was like the health code that would cause you to regenerate health continuously. That or stamina in the game, which was really how we made it through the game, was with just those cheat codes, because the game felt like unplayable without them. In addition, and there's also other bugs I really liked, like you could have an infinite summon by combining like Soul Trap and summon a whatever you wanted for 1 second. And basically you go stand in the corner, look at the ground, summon whatever monster you wanted, and it would Soul Trap it, and this would cause it to become a permanent entity in the game. So we would summon up a whole army of monsters and just go and destroy towns and such, and let the game lag as our army of like 100 monsters fought with the guards and whatnot. So that was always a fun time waster to do. I don't know how long we, as kids, we spent doing these things, because I look back and now it's like, how did I spend 15 minutes, or maybe 5 minutes only, just summoning up a bunch of monsters to go attack city guards? And it's like, yes, this is how I wanted to spend my afternoon. But nope, we did, and the game would sometimes crash and such, and so we just start over and do it again. But yeah, so those. And maybe we did them so much because we were with each other that, yeah, I'm not doing this for my own personal amusement. I'm doing this for the amusement of my brothers. And so that made up a lot of our early gaming experience for a long time. Just problem solving together, having one person kind of be almost the designated. You're furthest in the game, so you're going to keep playing so we can see what goes on, to multiplaying with each other a lot, and beating a lot of the AI and such on these big multiplayer like battles and whatnot, like Galactic Conquest and Star Wars Battlefront, or having long multiplayer like to 100 points or whatever with 3 people on Halo. But yeah, so I hope that this was vaguely interesting, kind of just this long run through of memories from when we were playing games and how it shaped a lot of kind of our early childhood and bond with each other as brothers, and that it still does continue today in different forms. We're currently revisiting Monster Hunter now that all the updates are out with the Title 4 update, and are working towards the Elder Dragon. That we just got Albino Chimp up to rank 100, so we can actually attempt to fight now. But yeah, so it's something that still goes on today. Our skills have shifted a little bit. Fluffyhead is still ridiculously good at video games he doesn't really play, but I'm better at understanding mechanics and such. But yeah, so, and poor Albino Chimp, he just kind of gets dragged along. He has a family, 2 kids. He doesn't got time to waste brain power to waste on video games, so we have to kind of drag him along. But it's fun enough to do so. Anyhow, so I hope that you found these stories interesting, and so if you've liked this drawing, go ahead and come in and read Gnosis. We got 3 pages 3 pages a week. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, that update. And if you feel that I've earned your money, go ahead and become a patron. And well, thank you. I hope you have a very good day, and take care. Bye.